Hello everyone, this is part 1 of What If Deku Married Mei. This story is made by Exotos 135, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, to share, and check out the playlist, to see more comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
If there was one thing Izuku Midoriya knew better than the rest, it's that life could be really cruel. And this day was definite proof of that. His classmates and teachers mocked his dream of going to UA. His prized notebook was destroyed, just when it was done. Bakugo still wanted nothing to do with him, and in fact said, "Take a swan dive off the roof, then maybe you'll get a quirk in your next life." And those words were growing more and more tempting by the minute. He was currently standing at the very same roof, overlooking his classmates as they walked home, even though the bell had yet to be rung. "Hey, Deku." Midoriya looked down, and there he was, Katsuki Bakugo, sporting his usual scowl. "Get moving already." What he probably meant that moment was for him to get down and walk home with him, in a walk that would certainly be filled with ridicule for him. Midoriya, however, had other plans. Ding, dong, asterisk. And so did the bell. Startled, Midoriya lost his balance and fell off. Not that he minded too much, he had accepted his fate the moment Bakugo called to him. Even if there were people who'd miss him, they'd be lost in the sea of people who wouldn't. Only one thing left to do. Goodbye, cruel. Wait, really? Goodbye, cruel world, that's it. Those would be his last words, some generic farewell to the world at large. That wouldn't do. He needed something more specific, something more unique. Maybe, see you in the next life. Nah, that's too vague, and if he changed it to include Bakugo or anybody else, that would make them look bad. How about, you saw this coming? Well, everyone's shocked expressions clearly said otherwise. Wait a minute, I'm still murmuring. And if I'm still murmuring, that means I'm still alive. Now wondering what was going on, Midoriya looked down and discovered, to his shock, that he was currently flying high, his reflection in the lake's water revealing the reason why. On his back were a pair of large, majestic avian wings, flapping as they kept Midoriya in the air. And they weren't just any ordinary kind of bird wings. They were swan wings. Whoa. Midoriya looked at his wings and slowly smiled. I have wings. He has wings. One of his classmates exclaimed. No, not wings. Bakugo argued, his eyes glued to the flying boy. A quirk. ANF. As everybody kept staring at the boy, Bakugo's sense of amazement was slowly replaced by his favorite emotion, wrath. What the fuck, Deku? Midoriya flinched at this statement, and looked down as his wings dissipated into a sea of white feathers. And, with nothing left to keep him in the air, he fell. Oh shit. Midoriya closed his eyes. This was definitely it. If this fall didn't kill him, the fact he just sprouted wings out of nowhere would certainly be his end. Hopefully, death by impact would be swift and quick. I am here. Midoriya was grabbed by a pair of muscular arms, and once he opened his eyes, he saw why. All Might, the greatest hero alive, was carrying him. But his characteristic smile couldn't hide his worry for the boy as he put him down. Are you okay? Why yeah, I guess so. Good. All Might gently patted Midoriya's back. Because we need to take you back to school. Oh. Right. Midoriya lowered his head. I do have a couple things to explain, don't I? The answer was yes and no. Yes, in that Midoriya had been asked a couple questions at the principal's office about the wings and why he jumped off the roof. But no in the sense of, once those questions were asked and answered, he was released from the office and he went outside, to be greeted by Bakugo's glare. Explain. I just did. Not to that backed idiot, to me. Bakugo hissed as he grabbed Midoriya by his shirt. What the hell was all that with the swan wings and you jumping off there? I was taking a look at the scenery when the bell rang and I lost balance. Midoriya exclaimed back, though more out of fear than genuine anger. And the wings just sort of happened. There was more to it, but Bakugo probably wouldn't care about it. HMPH, so that's the story, huh? Bakugo narrowed his eyes. You're not hiding anything from me, are you? I just found out about this myself. HMPH, Bakugo dropped Midoriya. If you say so. But keep this in mind, Deku, this changes nothing. Just because you got a quirk, doesn't mean you're my equal or anybody worth my time. I didn't say that, but you thought about it. I didn't do that either. TSK, just remember your place, Deku. And also, you better still quit that stupid pipe dream of joining UA. What's this about UA? Bakugo flinched and turned, meeting face to face with All Might's wide smile. All Might. WW, what are you doing here? Just a second ago, I was feeling worried about the kid who fell, so I thought I could check if he was alright. All Might scratched the back of his head. Did I come at a bad time? And no, I was just. Bakugo glanced back at Midoriya and got an idea. Encouraging my friend here to go to UA with me. Bakugo shot a look at Midoriya, and he quickly nodded. You're both planning to go to UA, huh? That was my old school. All Might laughed joyously. I like your ambition, lads. I'll be cheering you on. Bakugo smiled. Thanks. With another look at Midoriya, Bakugo left the school, leaving All Might to help Midoriya stand back up. I didn't come at a bad time, did I? And no, you came just at the right time. In fact, Midoriya answered as he flashed. By the way, did you really come here to see how I was doing? Well, that, and there's a young lady waiting outside for her son, All Might shrugged. So, I thought I could look for him. Is she small, plump, and has green hair? Yup. That's my mom. Excellent. All Might extended a hand towards the boy. Let's go see her. Midoriya almost accepted All Might's offer, but a question in his head stopped him. Before we go, can I ask you something? All Might silently nodded. What do you think about quirkless people? All Might didn't respond right away. Or for a while, one would say. He didn't even scratch his chin, he just stood there, like a statue. I think they're amazing. Midoriya blinked twice. We live in a society where quirks are everything. Quirks give people power, authority, a sense of self. And with the growing population of people with quirks, it's easy to forget the real, admirable survivors, the quirkless. What do you mean? I'll tell you while we walk. Midoriya finally accepted the hand, and as they walked, All Might fulfilled his promise. In a world where quirks are everything, people without quirks are seen as oddities at best, and wrong at worst. We've become so symbiotic with quirks that in our minds, someone without a quirk has an existence that just feels wrong. But that has never stopped the quirkless before. No, they do like the people of old, they keep fighting and moving forward, until they feel they've done everything can, or that they've gotten enough of this world. Just like Midoriya until now. I see. Sir, if that's what you think about the quirkless in general, what about the idea of giving them power? I'm afraid I don't understand. I mean, it's something I've asked myself sometimes. If anybody anywhere found a chance to give a quirk to a quirkless person, would they do it? Would they give the quirkless a quirk? And where did this idea come from? Well, it's just that. I thought I was quirkless until today, and I needed to hold on to hope somehow. Besides, it just makes more sense in my opinion. How so? Think about it. What's the point of giving more power to someone who already has power? Why not give it to a powerless minority who definitely need it more? The pair stopped in that moment, All Might's smile faltering as he raised his head in contemplation. Not that Midoriya saw this. To him, All Might had just stopped, for whatever reason. All Might. The man snapped back to reality. Sorry, I got lost in thought. That's certainly an interesting question, young. Oh, Izuku Midoriya, sir. Young Midoriya. All Might's smile returned and they began to walk again. I feel you will certainly be a great hero. Midoriya's smile became nearly as wide as All Might's in that moment, and it remained in his face as his mom ran up to him, showing concern like her usual self. But he was focused on a brand new goal, one he thought impossible until he summoned his wings. He was going to enter UA. Ever since he got his quirk, things got a little weirder for Midoriya. 1 second he was heading towards the building where he'd take the entrance exam for UA, probably just about to trip, too. The next, he slipped on something and fell back, right into a greatly enlarged hand. Are you okay? Midoriya turned around, and saw the owner of the enlarged hand, a redhead whose hair was tied in a ponytail, looking at him with concern. Why yeah, he said as he got off. I'm fine. I'm glad. The redhead shrunk her hand back to normal. It would be bad luck to trip on the day of the exam. That's what I thought. The pair turned to the source of both the voice and the slippery substance. It was a girl with pink skin and hair, with notable blush cheeks and small horns on her head. So I shot some of my more slippery acid before he tripped. That could have led to a more dangerous outcome, had I not been here. The redhead snapped, taking a couple stomps towards the acidic girl. I mean, I understand you had good intentions, but still. Besides, you're not supposed to use your quirk in public. You used yours too. Only because you used yours first. Gee girls, please stop, Midoriya stammered. He knew he was entering a minefield by asking the girls to stop, but he needed to do something before a fight broke out. I'm fine now, and nobody got hurt, so how about we focus on something else? Well, if you really are okay, then I guess we can stop arguing. The redhead walked to Midoriya and extended her hand. My name's Itsuka Kendo. And I'm Mina Ashido. The pink girl chirped, suddenly appearing in front of Midoriya, her hand extended. And as Midoriya hesitantly shook their hands, he realized something. Assuming he entered UA, which girl he'd end up in class with would be very telling of his next 3 years. If he and Mina got the same classroom, he felt it would be filled with adventure, danger, and romantic issues. If he and Kendo got the same classroom, the years would be more mellow and calm, the only problems he'd face being exams, bullies, and romantic issues. Yeah, no matter what, romantic issues would be present. Anyway, I'd love to talk some more, but the exam's about to start. Mina ran straight for the building, leaving Izuku alone with Kendo. Geez, what a troublemaker, but she has a point regardless. Let's head to the exam. Huh. Oh, right. Yeah, let's go. Midoriya released the girl's hands, and as he walked with them to take the written exam, there was one thing he couldn't get out of his mind. I just talked to a girl. In fact, not just one, but two. He was red for the rest of the walk. Until the practical portion of the exam came along. The written portion came and went pretty quickly, with the only real commotion being Midoriya fanboying over the hero who gave the explanation, Present Mike. Anyway, the practical was simple. There were a group of robots that had values of 1 to 3 attached to them, and the applicants had to destroy as many as they could before time ran out. It seemed oddly shallow, but Midoriya wasn't in the place to talk. Now, he stretched at the entrance to the practical area along with the rest of the applicants. With the odd exception of Bakugo. Come to think of it, he didn't see him while walking to the building, and the room for the written exam. Maybe he got earlier than him. Whatever, that didn't matter. For now, he had to recap what his 10 months of training allowed him to find out about his quirk. First, if he jumped off a high enough altitude, he would summon his wings immediately. They would vanish as soon as he touched the ground, however. There were also some things he could do on the ground, but Midoriya didn't think those were powers he should keep hidden for now. Mostly because. Could you please stop murmuring? Midoriya flinched and turned around, sporting the source of the voice as a guy with purple bed hair and tired eyes. For some reason, Midoriya heard bells for a second after the boy spoke. Did you hear them too? He asked. Hear what? The boy replied. There were bells rung just a second ago. They're from my quirk. If you hear them, it means you should shut up and stop murmuring. The bells returned, and Midoriya kept quiet as the boy turned to face the entrance. He took a look around to see if any familiar faces were around, but practically everyone was a complete stranger, outside of Kendo from before. Begin, applicants. There ain't no timers in real life. The entrance opened and everyone ran inside, Midoriya lagging a couple seconds behind from shock. Once inside, he scanned the building and hastily began climbing the tallest one he could find. As he did, he saw how the other applicants were doing. A guy was blasting some robots with a laser coming from his stomach, a guy with yellow hair shot them with electricity, a guy with a purple mohawk stuck some of them with his balls, and Kendo grew her fist before grabbing and slamming various of the mechanical obstacles on the ground. Everyone's quirk looks so cool. I really should have brought my notebook with me, I could have written entire pages with them. Before he knew it, he reached the top. However, the exam's happening right now. I need to focus. Midoriya took a couple steps back from the edge, then sprinted straight for it, jumping just as he reached the edge. Mere seconds after he began plummeting down, his swan wings were summoned, and he flew right before hitting the ground, staying close to it as he flew towards a group of one-pointers. Once close enough, his wings did his job for him as they sliced the robots hard enough to make them explode. 5 points. If I can keep up this tactic with the other targets, I might have a chance of passing. We got an interesting group this year, don't we? Said a small, squeaky voice. From the son of the number 2 hero, to a girl who's completely invisible, and even, I heard, people with extremely similar quirks. This truly is a spectacle to watch, said a female voice. So much passion, so much potential. That will be wasted once we get the first 40 winners, a male voice spoke. For now, let's try to focus on finding the more promising applicants. That's easy, then, the boy with the swan wings. The shadowy figures turned to the screen showcasing Midoriya, who repeated his slice and dice tactic with some 2 pointers. Isn't that the boy who found out about his quirk from a swan dive? A man was heard coughing, and this got the attention of the squeaky voice. I assume that's a yes, All Might. Finally, one of the figures came into view, All Might. Except rather than being all buff and shaded, he looked lanky and skeletal to cartoonish proportions. Yes, that's the boy. It seems he spent the 10 months before the exam focusing on figuring out how his quirk worked. What an impressive young lass. But we can't be sure of his admit sense just yet. We still need Ro give everyone one final test. A red button appeared. All Might, would you do the honors? The lanky man pressed the button. Midoriya's flight was brought to a stop once he saw the ground shaking and the applicants stumbling to keep their balance. What's going on? Why's the ground shaking? Midoriya would soon regret the answer. A giant 0-pointer appeared and slammed his metallic fist on the ground, sending pieces of rubble and the applicants flying away. Once they got their footing, they all began to run away, and despite having the higher ground, Midoriya was compelled to do the same. Until he saw Kendo trapped in some rubble close to the 0-pointer. Even when she got rid of the rubble by growing and shrinking her hand, though, she stumbled as soon as she tried to stand up. Midoriya looked at Kendo in dismay, and before he knew it, he zipped to her and grabbed her before flying away from the 0-pointer's reach, holding one of her arms. Midoriya, she exclaimed. Sorry, I spotted you having trouble standing up, and I thought you might need help. Midoriya frowned. Are you okay? No, my ankle's twisted, but this is actually perfect. Kendo faced the 0-pointer. If you can spin around a bit and throw me at it, I should be able to destroy it, or at least cause enough damage to it. Are you sure about this? Certainly. Midoriya smiled with confidence and took a deep breath. He began spinning in place, slowly going faster and faster as the 0-pointer stopped what it was doing to focus on the duo. And once he had spun enough, the boy slowed down as he shouted. Swan Rocket Punch. Midoriya launched Kendo towards the robot, and sped up to catch her on the other end. Kendo, for her part, clenched her fist and reeled back as she got closer and closer to the robot's head. Once close enough, she launched her fist forward and grew it as high as she could. The resulting punch tore easily through the robot's metallic exterior and interior, with Kendo bursting out of the other end, along with some other mechanical pieces, as she shrank her hand back to normal. Midoriya caught Kendo, and without hesitation, they flew away as the robot's head released smaller explosions before blowing up in a spectacular fashion. One that almost reminded Midoriya of Bakugo, even. With the robot destroyed, Midoriya flew back to the ground, his wings dissipating into feathers as President Mike's voice let everyone know the exam was over. That was a good strike, Midoriya complimented. Thanks, for the compliment and for helping me, Kendo replied. Now, can I ask why you're carrying me like a bride? Wait, I am. Alright, everybody, calm down, the nurse is here. The pair turned and saw a small, elderly woman walking around the site, handing candies and healing injuries with a kiss. This woman, Midoriya discovered, was Recovery Girl, UA's resident nurse and the reason the school could get away with such dangerous stunts like this. She better have had a good pay then. Now, what do we have here? The woman asked as she approached Midoriya and Kendo. Oh, I'm fine, Midoriya crouched down. But my friend here twisted her ankle. Perfectly fixable, then. Recovery Girl kissed the ankle, making Kendo wince, and in the blink of an eye, her ankle felt as good as new. Now head for your stuff at the lobby and go home. You'll get your results within a week, I'm told. Midoriya released Kendo, and they nodded in unison. Yes, ma'am. All Might walked down the hallways of UA, a small smile on his face. It wasn't as grandiose as one of his buff smiles, but it was still endearing in an odd way. Having a good day. All Might stopped and turned around, his smile unfazed as he saw the asked was a small animal in a suit. Ah, Principal Nezu, All Might spoke. Well, it's just that the combo the swan-winged boy and the redhead girl did, it kinda got me excited a little. Nostalgic, even. The creature asked. All Might's smile lightly faltered, and he nodded silently. Well, we can talk about that another day. For now, care to come to my office? The man nodded, and before he could guess what the principal's species actually was, he found himself sitting in his office, taking a look at the grandiose decoration that seemed more fitting for a mansion than a principal's office. Toshinori. The skeletal man stopped and turned to face the principal. Is something wrong, Principal Nezu? Well, I asked you to come to my office for a reason. Nezu clasped his paws. And considering the absolute secrecy around us, I'm sure you know what I mean. All Might's eyes widened. One for all. Precisely, I'd like to know if you have picked someone who'll inherit your quirk, Nezu sighed. Your body in its current state won't be able to hold One for All's power forever, you know. You need to pick an inheritor right now before that quirk destroys what's left of you. All Might looked shocked for a minute, but he soon flashed a little smile. Principal, you got nothing to worry about. Nezu raised an eyebrow, and All Might gave a thumbs up. I already chose someone to inherit One for All. It still hadn't arrived. It had been nearly 1 full week, and his letter from UA had yet to arrive. Just how hard was it to deliver a simple envelope saying, "Constulsions," or, "Better luck next time," to a house? Then again, UA did have several hundreds of applicants to deliver them to, so. Midoriya, Hatsum came for a visit. The boy's mood suddenly lit up, and he got off the sofa and went to the door to meet the girl herself. Once there, he was greeted by 2 wide smiles, his mom's and Hatsum's. Of particular note about Hatsum, besides her tinsel-like hair, was her black eyes with pink pupils, which looked more mechanical compared to the rest of her person. It's good to see you again, Hatsum, Midoriya remarked as he and the girl shook hands. How are you feeling? I'm fine, but what about you? She replied. I heard you did the entrance exam almost a week ago, but I haven't heard about your results. And then the teenagers felt themselves being pushed towards the sofa. All right, it seems you two have a couple things to talk about, Mrs. Midoriya said as the teenagers sat down. Meanwhile, I have to go clean off the dirt Hatsum brought with her. Mrs. Midoriya left with that statement. Hatsum, no offense, but you reek. Midoriya covered his nose. What were you doing before coming here? Oh, I was working on one of my latest gadgets, the Hatsumerang, the girl answered proudly as she took out the blueprints for said weapon from her back. It's like a boomerang, but mechanical. And you couldn't take a shower before, Midoriya paused. No, wait, I just remembered. Hatsum and Midoriya exchanged looks, and after a while, Midoriya broke eye contact, while Hatsum kept staring. If you're willing to help me, I could take a bath here. Midoriya flushed as steam burst from his ears. Or I could stay stinky during my whole visit. Midoriya's disgust overpowered his embarrassment. Let's take a bath. 1 bath later, Midoriya and Hatsum returned to the living room, the latter wearing a t-shirt and short combo that made her look like a female All Might cosplayer. Once they sat down, Midoriya reached for a peculiar object left in the desk, Hatsum's eyes. He grabbed them, turned to Hatsum, and she opened her eyes to reveal the blank sockets inside. He hastily put the mechanical eyes back on, and after a few seconds, they became functional once more. Thanks, Midoriya. Hatsum sighed with relief. I really needed that. It's okay, Hatsum. The boy took a deep breath and looked elsewhere. Just please don't mention it. Seeing the discomfort in the guy's face, Hatsum quickly changed the subject. Has your letter arrived yet? No, Midoriya answered and grabbed a dumbbell. What about yours? Hatsum blushed and twiddled her fingers. I got it Wednesday. Midoriya immediately dropped his dumbbell and got up close to Hatsum. Did you get in? Hatsum looked shocked for a minute before she flashed a wide, prideful smile, which was all the answer Midoriya needed. That's amazing, Hatsum. He hugged Hatsum and lifted her high. Now you're 1 step closer too. Then he felt a pair of soft mounds press against his chest. 1 step closer to what? Hatsum asked with a sly smile. The suspense is killing me. Midoriya released Hatsum, and backed away a little, flushing as he did. Anyway, the fact you entered UA is amazing. Not that there was any reason to doubt, your gadgets are fairly high quality despite them being made by an amateur. However, the fact you did them while adjusting to a new type of sight makes it even more incredible. I can only imagine how. Midoriya, you're murmuring again. Quote. Sorry. No problem. Anyway, do you think you got in? Try not to murmur if you can, please. Midoriya scratched his chin. Well, on the one hand, I did manage to use my quirk in a way that didn't break the rules, and I got my fair share of robots and rescues to my name. On the other hand, though, there were hundreds of applicants, some might have even done better than me. Hatsum put a hand on his shoulder. Even if you don't get in, I'll still think of you as a hero. Midoriya smiled, but it vanished quickly once he remembered the reason Hatsum would believe that. Midoriya stood on top of the roof of his apartment when he jumped, his wings materializing soon after. He flew around for a moment, spinning, turning, and just all around trying to gain a better feel for his quirk. Okay, I can fly up and down, now let's think of something else I could do. Swan wings are strong enough to break bone, so if I could summon them on the ground. Help. Without even thinking, Midoriya flew to the streets in search for the cry for help. He scanned his surroundings, and stopped as soon as he saw the source of the cry. A girl with pink hair styled like tendrils covered her eyes with one hand, while grabbing a set of gadgets on the other. Her eyes were apparently bleeding, judging by the blood running down her hand. On the other side, was Stain, the hero killer, bloody sword in hand. The fakers that plague this world give heroism a bad name enough as it is. To give them to support items, to support them in any capacity, is to join the mockery of heroism. Hatsum breathed heavily as she crawled back, until she hit a wall. Believe me, I don't feel any pleasure doing this. Stain slowly approached Hatsum. But the less support the fake heroes have, the easier my mission will become. Just as Stain got ready to strike again, a white blur zipped past him and snatched Hatsum, leaving only her gadgets behind. Though surprised, Stain didn't bother following the blur, instead he sliced and diced the gadgets to oblivion, and left to continue his work. As for Hatsum, she was released on the Midoriya household's living room, with what sounded like footsteps that became quieter as a voice spoke. Listen, it's okay, you're going to be fine now. Who's there? Hatsum stammered. I'm Izuku Midoriya, I snatched you as soon as I saw you being confronted by Stain. I hope you don't mind. Did you snatch my babies too? Quote. I'm sorry, what? My gadgets. Quote. No, I'm sorry, I had to leave them behind. Tears became mixed with Hatsum's blood as she cried, both in pain and sadness. But look at the bright side. You're still alive. And she'll be able to see soon, a female voice blurted. Mom, where did you get those eyes? I built them myself while I took that online gadgeting class. One of my coworkers tested them, and they worked just fine with her. Eyes. Hatsum stuttered. We got a pair of mechanical eyes here that we're planning to install on your sockets. Mom says it's safe, but please, install them. I want to see where I am. A quick install in pink. Everything's pink. Yeah, I was planning to update them to include all colors. Just a little smile. May Hatsum. I still wonder what was the hero killer doing here back then. He had already attacked this area and crippled 4 heroes. Even if he had come to the conclusion that support items would make his goal more difficult, why attack a student? He's never done that before. IZUKU. Inko shouted, barging into the room. The boy flinched and nearly fell to the ground. Mom, what's wrong? It's here, Inko exclaimed, reaching for her back to take out a letter with UA's stamp on it. UA's letter is here. The teenagers exchanged looks. SND after gaining little smiles, Midoriya grabbed it and opened it. A small gadget appeared from within, and it projected a holographic image of a familiar face. I am here. In a hologram. That's a wrap. All Might took a deep breath and sat on a chair before he burst out of his buff form, and into his skeletal form. He kept breathing heavily as one of his coworkers, a purple-haired woman named Midnight, offered him a glass of water. Thanks, young Kayama. Midnight blushed. SND giggled, causing the man to blush as well. So, how do you feel? Tired? So many promising young heroes to welcome, so little time. And I still have to deliver one more letter personally. Midnight raised an eyebrow. Personally. All Might smiled. There's this one girl I recommended to take the normal exam, and she passed. Now, I want to deliver her the letter to let her know her efforts weren't in vain. Midnight smirked. Oh, is All Might displaying favoritism? That's not a very professional thing to do. Well, Then again, who am I to talk? I tend to focus more on the students I find cute. After all, Midnight folded her arms. If I may ask, though, who's this girl you want to deliver the letter to? All Might sipped his glass and chuckled. If I told you, you and the rest of our co-workers would need to keep another secret. I don't see why we can't. I mean, we're already hiding the fact your true form looks like someone who spent an entire week in bed with me. All Might spat out his drink, only to spit out blood as he coughed. That's quite the analogy, young Kayama. It sure is. Now tell me who she is, pretty please. All Might took a deep breath, and once he was confident he wouldn't get another attack, he replied. Come with me. All Might and Midnight parked next to a seemingly normal apartment, whose first-floor lights were on. And judging by the screams and the silhouettes, somebody was training inside. The duo walked to the door, and All Might knocked twice. His third knock interrupted when an old man in a yellow costume opened. Yes, Gran Torino, Midnight exclaimed, flinching as soon as she recognized the tiny man. Good night, Gran Torino-sensei, All Might greeted as he took out the letter, ignoring Midnight's baffled expression. I got something for the girl, don't ya? Yeah, I had a feeling you would come see her. Gran Torino turned to his back and yelled, Melissa. Toshinori wants to see you. Midnight's shock vanished. SND was replaced with confusion. Wait, Melissa, is that the girl we're looking for? Midnight soon got her answer when the girl herself appeared. Long blonde hair, blue eyes, a simple t-shirt and shorts combo for training, and the most notable feature of hers were her veins, glowing yellow as electricity surged through her. The veins turned back to normal before she spoke. Did you need me, UNCLR Might? Midnight once again became shocked as All Might smiled wide, and revealed the letter. I got something for you. Midoriya walked out of his train as soon as it unboarded, and Power walked happily towards the hero school known as UA. He was in, after so much effort and uncertainty, he had finally entered the hero school of his dreams. This marked the beginning of many things, his hero career, his road to become the greatest hero alive. Heyo. Also his road to talking to a girl outside Hatsume. Hi. The boy turned around, and to his surprise the girl behind him was Mina, looking particularly excited. Today's the day. The start of our hero career. The start of a journey filled with action. Heroism. Romance. It's so exciting. Midoriya nodded nervously as he took a step back, trying to divert his attention as the acid girl began jumping up and down, edging ever closer with every hop. And then she stopped, and pressed her cheek against his. So, can I count on you these next 3 years? Would you stop harassing him? The duo separated and turned around to see Kendo approach them, a disapproving glare fixed on Mina. I understand this is a new beginning for everybody, but you really shouldn't invade someone's privacy like that. You don't even know if he's part of your class. Mina huffed, and wrapped her arm around Midoriya's shoulder. You're just jealous because I got to Midoriya before you did. And even if we're not part of the same class, I'm sure he enjoys my company just as much as I do his. Ashido, we just met last week, and we never really interacted since then, Midoriya pointed, trying to gently remove the girl's arm from his shoulder. This only made her hold him tighter. Don't worry, we'll have more than enough time to interact once we go to our classroom. Mina beamed. By the way, what classroom are you in, Kendo? Class 1B. Hey, just like me and Ashido, then. Midoriya chirped. Mina shook her head. Nah, I'm in Class 1A. A short silence passed, and Mina and Midoriya promptly separated. Wait, what the heck? You're in Class 1B. Yeah. Mina dropped to her knees, shedding false tears. So you lead me on with the idea we'd be classmates, only to tell me to my face we're opposite classes. How could you? Midoriya didn't do anything wrong, Kendo growled. You're the one who assumed he was part of your classroom. TSK? Fine, I'll give that to you. Mina stood up and dusted herself. But I'll remind you that transfers still exist, so if I'm just patient, I'm sure Midoriya will transfer to my. Mina paused and flinched, grabbing her butt and twitching in pain as a vine-haired girl entered the scene, sporting a disapproving scowl. To think the first thing I'd see the first day of classes is a guy and his girlfriends arguing over who gets to keep him. The vine-haired girl narrowed her eyes. Disgusting. You call us disgusting? Mina snapped, standing up as if nothing happened. You're the one who shoved your vines up my ass. That was for invading a guy's privacy and causing a commotion, the girl explained sternly. And the next one's for uttering a swear word. Wait, the next oh. Shiozaki made good on her word, but instead of a squeak of discomfort, Mina moaned as she dropped to the ground, clinging her butt and twitching as Shiozaki retracted her vine. Oh ho ho, oh, that one went real deep. Midoriya blushed and looked away as Kendo inquired, "Are you enjoying it?" "I'm sorry." Everybody turned, and Midoriya was instantly stunned by what he saw, a girl with long blonde hair running towards them, with two very notable things about her. First, she was tall. Like, basically a head taller than him, tall. Second, she looked a bit too old to be wearing a high school uniform. "I told Ashido not to run off ahead, but she didn't listen," she said as she lifted the twitching girl. "She didn't cause too much trouble, did she?" "She invaded Midoriya's privacy," Kendo explained, pointing at the guy as soon as she said his name. "And she also prompted the vine girl over there to react. I'm so sorry, I really am." "Well, nobody got hurt, so I guess it's fine," Midoriya shrugged, earning a baffled look from the vine girl. "By the way, I'm Izuku Midoriya." "I'm Melissa Shield," the girl answered. Another short pause. "Ah, wait," they said in unison. "Izuku Midoriya, as in, the son of Inko Midoriya. Melissa Shield, as in, the daughter of David Shield." Yes. The duo squealed. SND grabbed hands, jumping up and down as Kendo and the vine-haired girl took a step back. "I can't believe I'm meeting the daughter of a world-renowned scientist," Midoriya chirped. "Heck, I can't believe we'll be going to the same school." "Your mother's not too shabby either," Melissa replied. "She was one of the best assistants my dad ever had." "Wait, she was her assistant. And my babysitter." The duo squealed again, and this time, the girls interfered. "Sorry for interrupting your shouting match, but we'll be late." Oh, right. Sorry, but we'll have to talk about this later, Shield. "Please, just call me Melissa." Midoriya blushed and steam came out of his ears. All right, Melissa." The boy began wobbling to Kendo's side, and she grabbed him Ethan enlarged fist and ran away, bidding farewell to the gigantic high school girl. "I think you'll become very popular, Melissa." "Shut up, Ashido." Midoriya took a couple deep breaths as he and Kendo walked down the hallways, heading to their classroom. There wasn't anybody else in the halls for some reason, so there was little risk of breaking his concentration. "Feeling better?" Kendo asked. "Yeah, very much." Midoriya scratched the back of his head. "Sorry for acting the way I did, it's just that, she's Melissa Shield, daughter of world-renowned scientist David Shield. Meeting her is something out of a dream. Yeah, you said it back at the entrance. However, while I agree it's amazing to meet her, you'll have to learn to behave yourself. She's going to be a classmate for the next 3 years after all." "Right." Midoriya blushed. 3 years with Melissa Shield as a fellow hero course student. And eventually, they arrived at the destination. Class 1B. Kendo opened the door, and she and Midoriya walked inside, only to be met by the rest of their classmates already there. The teacher hadn't yet arrived, though, so that was a plus. "Hi everybody," Kendo greeted as she grabbed Midoriya's arm and walked to their desks. "Sorry, my friend over here got a little flustered at the entrance, so I decided to help him calm down." "Friend," Midoriya parroted. "That's fine, I think we all know why he was flustered," a silver-haired guy remarked. "It was that tall 1A girl, right?" Midoriya shyly nodded as he sat down. "Yeah, we were all stunned when we saw her too," a bug-eyed boy remarked. "I mean, did you see how tall she was? I mean, I'm sure she wasn't wearing platform shoes, and she looks taller than some of the teachers. What caught my attention was the fact she's part of 1A, a blonde guy said, brushing his hair as he added, "Not only do they have the guy with the top score, the son of the number 2 hero, the most recent son of the Ida family, and the heiress to the Yaoyorozu, but now the daughter of David Shield as well. When you put it like that, it does seem a little overkill." Midoriya shook his head and pounded his fist. B. But we have our own set of important students, right? Think about that another time. It was then that the homeroom teacher entered the classroom. ANF Midoriya had to cover his mouth not to scream. It was the blood hero himself, Vlad King, the one who could control his own blood and manipulate it to his whim. And oh lord, it was Melissa all over again. Greetings. I'm Seikijiro Kan, otherwise known as Vlad King, and I will be your homeroom teacher. Now, there's not much to do today: orientation, a test of your abilities, and a rundown of what you should expect for the rest of this semester. So, let's get started by introducing yourselves. Vlad King passed list and the students introduced themselves. The silver-haired guy was called Tetsu, and his quirk, Steel, allowed him to turn his body into the material. The bug-eyed guy was named Kosei Subaraba, and his quirk, Air Shield, allowed him to create shields from the air in his lungs. Next was the blonde guy, Nito Monoma, whose quirk, Copy, allowed him to copy someone he's touched for 5 minutes. The rest of the introductions flew by fairly quickly. There was Kendo, who could grow and shrink her hands, a girl who could summon mushrooms, a girl who could split herself apart into various body parts, another girl who could telekinetically life a body's worth of items. And why was Midoriya only focusing on the girls? Speaking of Midoriya, his turn soon CSME, and he stood up as he said, "I Izuku Midoriya. My quirk is Swan Dive, and by jumping off a certain high point, I can summon a pair of swan wings to fly and do other things, I guess." He immediately sat back down. "Dude, that sounds awesome," Subaraba remarked. "You should give us a demonstration. Everybody will get to show off what they can do soon. After orientation, we'll have a quirk apprehension test to see how much you need to improve," Vlad King sighed. Although, in Midoriya's case, he won't be able to show his quirk unless he has another method to activate it. Midoriya shook his head. "I haven't discovered another way to activate it, sir." "Oh man, what a bummer," Subaraba whined. "I wanted to see Midoriya sprout majestic bird wings." Midoriya scratched his chin. "Well, I think if I jumped out the window now." "Don't," the classroom exclaimed in unison. "Let's keep going before anybody else gets a crazy idea," Vlad King stated. "Who hasn't introduced themselves yet?" The vine-haired girl from before stood up. SND clasped her hands. "Abara Shiozaki. My quirk is vines, which turns my hair into a set of vines I can control at will." With her description finished, Shiozaki sat down. "Good. Perfect. Now that everybody knows everybody, let's head to orientation." The students wasted no time following Vlad King, and as Midoriya followed them, he couldn't help but wonder how much information about them he could add to his notebook. Or maybe he shouldn't. Or ask permission first, maybe. Once orientation was over, which mostly consisted of an hour of the principal talking about nonsense before talking about the important stuff in the last 5 minutes, the students of 1B got changed and went to a training yard. "Alright, here's the gist of it. Remember all those physical events you did back in middle school? This test is similar, except you're able to use your quirks." Vlad King eyed Midoriya. "As long as you don't threaten yourself in the process." Midoriya took that as a sign not to use his quirk. Not that he'd be able to anyway, he didn't see a high enough spot to do so. Any questions? Nobody raised their hands. Good. Now, let's get to the first test. The 50-meter dash. A pair of students stood at the start of the line, and got ready to sprint forward. The duet consisted of Midoriya, and an odd-looking girl with horns on her head and oddly bent legs. As soon as the signal was given, Midoriya flinched as the horse girl sprinted on all four, leaving him to eat her dust until he began running himself. 2.70 seconds. The robot at the end of the line said once the girl crossed the line. 4.30 seconds. It said when Midoriya eventually arrived. As the boy caught his breath, he felt somebody nudge him on the leg, and it turned out to be the horse girl, who pointed at her back. "What is it? Do you need something?" She rolled her eyes and hit him, causing him to land right on her back. "Oh, you wanted me to sit here?" The girl nodded. "Ah, thanks." She gave him a thumbs up. Midoriya remained sitting down as he turned to see the next pair of students, Shiozaki, and a guy with a glue dispenser for a head. The fact they were neck to neck when they finished would have been amazing, if they hadn't taken forever to get there. The next test was grip strength. The students had to grab a weighted object. The girl with the levitating quirk tried to use it to levitate several dumbbells at once, only to catch Vlad King's attention. Yanagi, you're supposed to grab the object. The girl pouted as she snapped her fingers, dropping the objects to the ground. As for Midoriya, he simply grabbed a pair of dumbbells and began moving them up and down, before he looked at the rest of his classmates. Shiozaki, in particular, grabbed one of the objects Yanagi dropped with her vine, followed by a couple more. She turned to Vlad King, who promptly told her to try use her hands for the objects. She couldn't even grasp one of them before she clutched her arm in pain. Shiozaki, Midoriya exclaimed. I'm fine. The vine-haired girl stated. Just a little cramp, don't mind me. The next test was the standing long jump. The students had to jump and try to clear the sandbox in front of them. Most reached the end of the sandbox. Some outright cleared it. Midoriya only reached the middle of it, and Shiozaki tripped before she could even jump. After other tests involving sit-ups, repeated sidesteps, and other stuff, came the final test, throwing the ball. The first one to try it was Kendo, who grabbed the ball, reeled back, and increased the size of her hands before she threw the ball with all her strength. 500 meters, said the robot. After being congratulated by her peers, Midoriya came to a sad conclusion as the rest of the class, Shiozaki included, did their test next. None were coming anywhere near close to Kendo's record. Sure, some got pretty far, even breaking the hundreds, but nowhere near the distance Kendo had covered. Then came his turn, and Midoriya shivered as he went to the throwing spot, ball in hand. You can do it, Midoriya. Kendo shouted. Midoriya turned back to Kendo and nodded with a smile, before he reeled back, ready to throw the ball. In that moment, the boy wished he had found a way to his quirk, if not on his back, then maybe on his feet, or hips, or anywhere else that could have helped him in any of the tests. But oh well, it was too late to think that. He threw the ball and, as soon as it reached its highest point, it sprouted wings. Swan wings, which it used to glide as everybody else stood stunned at the sight. And once the wings vanished and the ball hit the ground. 370 meters. Before Midoriya knew it, his classmates surrounded him and congratulated him, ignoring the boy's confusion over what just happened. Did I do that? Then came the results. Kendo landed first place, which didn't surprise Midoriya, but what did was his own placement at 10th place. It was much better than what he expected. Certainly better than Shiozaki's placement, nearly rock bottom at 19th. And as I to further drive the point home, the girl looked at her ranking with a look of despondent disappointment. So of course, Midoriya walked to her and put a hand on her shoulder. Hey, Shiozaki. She slapped his hand away, her expression turning back into a scowl. Keep your pity to yourself. Midoriya blinked. Pity. He was just trying to cheer her up for landing last place. You think that just because you got right in the middle of the rankings, that you can tell me how to improve. You didn't even use your quirk the entire test. Well, there was a statement Midoriya couldn't refute. Plus, you've only had your quirk for a year, not your whole life. You only trained your quirk for about a year, not your whole life. Another comment Midoriya couldn't refute, especially when Shiozaki grabbed him by the neck of his uniform and growled. I think I know better than you what struggle feels like. With her mind spoken, Shiozaki stomped away along with the rest of the class, leaving Midoriya to ponder. Just what was up with her? Classes had come to an end as the ringing of the bell was heard, and Midoriya walked with Kendo through the hallways. He wasn't sure why he was so comfortable with Kendo, but for some reason, his usual nervousness around girls just disappeared when he was with her. Maybe she was just that trustworthy. So, Midoriya, Kendo blurted, getting the boy's attention. How do you think was your first day at UA? Well, it's still kinda going, don't you think? Midoriya said, scratching the back of his head. Once we cross the gate, then the day will truly be over. He, I guess you're right, Kendo folded her arms. Okay, so, let me say it again, how has this day been for you so far? It's been nice, actually, Midoriya twiddled his fingers. There's one thing that worries me, though, and it's about Shiozaki. Kendo scratched her chin. She landed near rock bottom during the quirk apprehension test, right? Yeah, I tried to cheer her up after it, but she refused, telling me to keep my pity to myself, Midoriya sighed. I wasn't even doing it out of pity, I just wanted to try and cheer her up so she wouldn't feel bad about her misfortune. Midoriya, that's exactly the definition of pitying someone. Oh, don't worry about it, though, I'm sure Shiozaki just needs some time to relax and think things over. Believe me, when we return here tomorrow, Shiozaki will be in a much better mood. Midoriya slowly formed a smile and nodded. You know what? Yeah, maybe she just needs some time alone. And we need you to give us a show. The duo stopped and turned to see a group of students, presumably from Class 1A, running up to them, with Mina front and center, and a guy with engines on his legs running right behind her. Ashido-kun, I insist we shouldn't be bothering our fellow hero course classmates on their way home. The engine guy exclaimed. And I insist, Ida, that everybody here wants to see it at least once. Mina argued back as the guy adjusted his glasses. Admit it, even you want to see what the new guy can do. Perhaps, but it's settled then. Mina turned to Midoriya and clasped her hands. Midoriya, could you please give us a showcase of your quirk? Pretty please. Midoriya eyed the crowd, and noted one particular absence. Where's Melissa? Mina groaned and rolled her eyes. She had to go back home, so she refused to come with us to see you. Good, Kendo sternly stated. That means at least one of you has common sense and decency. The guy named Ida flinched and clutched his chest, almost as if the statement physically hurt him. Seeing this, Kendo grabbed Midoriya's hand and dragged him away, only to be stopped by Mina. You can't leave just yet. You still haven't shown us your potentially super awesome quirk. Midoriya scratched the back of his head. It's not that awesome. For starters, the requirements needed to activate it in the first place would get us in trouble if we tried it, and... Mina pouted and got right on Midoriya's face. Well, what do you have to do in order to summon it? Jump or fall from a high altitude. Class 1A fell silent. What? That's it? Ida asked. Midoriya tilted his head. What do you mean? Mina showed her palms, with a white liquid coming out of them. I mean, you don't have to secrete acidic liquid from your body that can burn your skin and ruin your clothes. The spiky-haired guy raised his finger, with some electricity surging through it. Or shoot streams of lighting with the chance you'll fry your brains out. The girl with the long bang lifted her shirt, moved her hand to her stomach, and grabbed a Matryoshka doll she created. Or memorize the atomic composition of the object you want to create from your skin, which, by the way, has to be exposed in order for it to work. Kendo and Midoriya fell silent. Bottom line is, Midoriya, if all you have to do is jump off from a big height, then you got off easy, Mina smirked. And I believe we have just the girl who can help you achieve those heights. So, what do you say? Kendo tightened her grip on Midoriya's hand and took him to a corner nearby, all while Mina watched them like a hawk. Midoriya, I don't think you should go through with this, she whispered. I mean, think about it, what do you gain from this? A stroke to your ego. You don't seem like the kind of person to just go along and do what people tell you to do just because. Let's just go home. But, Midoriya didn't budge. Kendo, I kinda want to do it. What? Listen to me, I didn't get to show off my quirk at all during the quirk apprehension test, unless we count that, giving the ball wings, move I did at the last test. Everybody else got to show off at least something of what they could do, but I didn't. Kendo released Midoriya. Besides, it'll only be for a short minute. I'll fly for a couple seconds, then I'll head to the ground, we'll go home, and we'll never talk about this again. Kendo eyed the likes of Class 1A, who were staring at the duo with anticipation, and then she looked back at Midoriya, whose look pleaded her to allow him to do it. Eventually, she sighed and folded her arms. Fine, but as soon as you're done, we're leaving. Midoriya smiled. Thank you, Kendo. Midoriya walked to Class 1A, who rejoiced once he gave them the news. In particular, Mina hugged him, followed by throwing a sly look at Kendo before she guided him to the PE grounds once more, with Kendo and the rest of 1A following her soon after. Just before they left, however, a mess of pink tendrils appeared into view, looking at the sight with mechanical disapproval. Okay, here we are. Mina chirped as soon as everyone reached the grounds. Uraraka, it's your turn now. Class 1A parted ways to allow this, Uraraka, to enter the field. She had brown hair, prominent bangs, and blushing cheeks that Midoriya couldn't help but find utterly adorable. Hi, Uraraka, right. Midoriya greeted. I'm Izuku Midoriya. The girl smiled. Okako Uraraka. Midoriya shyly returned the smile. Yes sir, how are you going to help me activate my quirk? My quirk lets me negate the gravity pull of an object I touch until I press my fingertips and say release. Uraraka scratched her chin. Maybe, I could touch you, negate your gravity, and then return you to normal once you feel you're high enough to activate your quirk. That sounds perfect. Actually, Midoriya clasped his hands. Okay, so, touch me, and once I tell you to let me go, release me. Uraraka touched the guy, and he began floating up, Uraraka briefly glancing at a glaring Kendo nearby. Don't worry, I won't let him go through the atmosphere. Oh, sorry, I was glaring wasn't I? The redhead asked as she shook her head and changed her expression. Sorry, I'm just a little worried for my classmate, that's all. That's perfectly understandable, Mina chirped, suddenly appearing right next to Kendo. But you have nothing to worry about, Kendo. We got Midoriya's back. Kendo didn't respond right away, instead he looked strictly at Mina's wide smile, and narrowed her eyes as she whispered. There's another reason why you wanted Midoriya to show you his quirk, isn't there? Mina's smile slowly grew smaller, and it gained a hint of smugness as she narrowed her eyelids. Would I have insisted about it otherwise? Mina wrapped her arm around Kendo's arm, and pressed her fingertips against her skin, releasing some acid that released steam and stung, but otherwise did nothing. Now listen up, Kendo. I understand Midoriya is in your classroom. I understand you care about him just as much as you do with everybody else. But, and this is for your sake, you should be very well aware that just because Midoriya is in your class, it doesn't mean he can't be transferred. Mina smirked. And who knows, this week, something might happen that'll give him enough reason to do just that. Kendo took a deep breath. Why do you care so much about the fact Midoriya is in my class? You have the son of the number 2 hero, the heiress of the Yaoyorozu family, the next in the line of the Idas, and the daughter of a world-renowned scientist. What more do you want? How cute. You think those guys' statuses mean anything to me? Mina tightened her grip, and increased the acidity of her acid. The reason I care about the fact Midoriya is in your class, is because he's not somewhere within my reach. What? Do you love him or something? You don't. Kendo and Mina glared at each other, Mina smirking while Kendo growled, until they heard Midoriya shout. This is high enough. The girls looked up as Uraraka released Midoriya, and Mina released Kendo, bumping her out of the way as Kendo stared strictly at the falling Midoriya. He looked determined at the ground, clenching his fists as he began speeding up. Eventually, a white light flashed from his back, and just as he was about to hit the ground, a pair of swan wings sprouted from his back and flapped, sending him right back up as the force of the flaps sent waves across the ground. Whoa, was the thing most of Class 1A said in unison. So, that's it, Kendo remarked, suddenly gaining a smile. That's how his quirk looks. Even Midoriya gained a smile on his face as he soared through the skies, making several moves and turns as he began laughing in joyous bliss. How cool, Mina chirped, bouncing up and down. Midoriya, come down here and show us what else it can do. I can't. Mina suddenly stopped bouncing and got angry. Why not? If I touch the ground, the wings will vanish. It happens every T. Deku. The boy flinched and his wings vanished, sending him plummeting to the ground, or so he thought. Instead, he landed on something much worse, the arms of a certain explosive teenager. Bakugo, Midoriya exclaimed. What are you doing here? I'm part of Class 1A, genius, the guy stated as he dropped the swan dive user. What? Did you forget I promised I was going to get into UA's hero course? Oh right. Midoriya stood up and dusted himself. You did mention something like that before. Geez, I barely take a couple steps out of the school ground and already people are piling up on Deku. Bakugo snapped to look at Mina. And you, why are you forcing him to do something he doesn't want to do? I'm not forcing him to do anything. Nobody is. Mina snapped back, putting her hands on her hips. We asked him if he could show it to us, he said yes, and now we're here. And now, they're leaving, Bakugo stated as he pushed Midoriya to Kendo's side. Take him away before Pinky over there gets any dumb ideas. Kendo nodded in agreement, and wrapped her arm around Midoriya and bolt out of the place with the boy in tow, Bakugo summoning a couple of firecrackers to keep Class 1A, especially Mina, at bay. However, it wasn't long before the pink-skinned girl spoke. Just one question, Bakugo, you made it clear you wanted nothing to do with this little detour. What exactly convinced you to get involved anyway? That must have been quite a show, huh? Midoriya asked, forcing a little smile. I talked about how I wanted to show off my quirk, and in the end, you didn't get to see me do much with it. It's okay, Midoriya, Kendo sighed. The real issue is the fact you agreed to do it so easy, ugh. Suddenly, Kendo unwrapped her arm around Midoriya and grabbed it, allowing the boy to see more clearly the source of the pain. The points where Mina had stung Kendo had formed dark red patches, with slight smoke still coming out of them. Good lord, Kendo, your arm's been badly burnt. Midoriya exclaimed as he took a closer look at the marks. When did this happen? Kendo gritted her teeth. While you were being lifted, Mina decided to meet me and give me a little, unpleasant surprise. What? But I did exactly what she asked, why would she? Midoriya shook his head. Never mind, we need to take you to Recovery Girl right now. There's no need to do that. The duo turned around, and a girl with pink tendrils for hair and pink mechanical eyes arrived, holding a first aid kit. Kendo raised an eyebrow, while Midoriya suddenly flashed a smile. I got some first aid right here. Hatsume. Midoriya chirped, grabbing the kit as the girl stood by his side. I don't know how you knew we'd need this, but thank you so much. No problem, Midoriya, it's the least I could do, Hatsume replied before turning to Kendo. And I suggest you try to keep your distance from whoever did this to you. Trust me, you don't have to tell me twice, Kendo eyed Midoriya. Say, Midoriya, who's this girl? Right, sorry, Midoriya finished wrapping Kendo's arm, and pointed at Hatsume. This is Mei Hatsume, a first year in the support course and an old friend of mine. Well, nice to meet you, name's Itsuka Kendo, I'm one of Midoriya's classmates. Kendo took a closer look at Hatsume's eyes and scratched her chin. Hey, those are some nifty mechanical eyes. Are they a result of your quirk or something? Midoriya flinched, and took a step forward, only to be stopped by Hatsume. Let me handle this, Midoriya. The boy paused, nodded, and stepped back. I used to have a quirk that allowed me to see long distances. However, an incident happened that destroyed my eyes, so, to not be left blind, I was implanted these mechanical eyes as replacements. Wait, you used to have a quirk that affected your eyes. And they got destroyed during an incident. Kendo recapped, flinching as soon as she finished. Wait, wouldn't that mean? Hatsume grabbed her arm. I'm functionally quirkless. That will be all for this video. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment down below for more videos. Goodbye.